Hey guys and welcome. This is Creative Subdivide. Now this is one of the most important parts because in this video we are going to learn about how to practically do programming in Unity. So if you don't have any prior knowledge of programming in Unity, that's not a really great problem, but I'll say that you should have prior knowledge of object-oriented programming structure. So first of all, I'm going to do is I'm going to save scene, which is actually going to give you a name, but I've already saved this at good tut, which means for good tutorial. Hope it's good enough. So now we're going to add our first script, and for doing that you need to go to the sphere or any object you want to add a script and add component. Now I want to name this player. Let's just name this player movement. New script, and let's just name this also capital M and add. So right in here you can reload the solution if you really want, and let's just go to here and then go to player movement and then just click open. Now it's going to open the script in Visual Studio or any other IDE that you already have downloaded. So it just completely depends on which IDE you have downloaded. Now practically I have my player movement in Visual Studio, as you can see already. So firstly what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how to assign a variable in C#. So practically you have two ways of assigning a variable, that is public or private. Public makes it visible to other programs for in easier words, and private doesn't make it in that way, and it's explicit content to that program only. So public, and let's just name the type of variable such as int or float. So we're gonna make this float, and my float is equals to, let's name a value of 22, and let's put a F and enter. Well, another way of doing it is let's just make this to be public again. Public int, I could do an int for now, this public int my int, and now I don't need to assign a value to this. In fact, I can just keep it as I want. So now if I save this, and why I didn't do this is because now when I go to my sphere, and it's going to update things a little bit, and then it's going to show the value exactly here, my int to be 0, which is what I want. And I can see my int is 0, and I can edit this inside the editor. So that is the basic way of making a function. Now variable, making variables in Unity. Now another thing that you need to really understand is functions. Functions are actually there to do a specific function inside the work. Now, as you can see, these double things, double tags, and that are written. You can write anything with these double tags, and they will not be run. It is not executable. So if I write God is great, it's not gonna run this. So it doesn't matter if I write God is great or God is not great. So the void start, which is used for initialization, is the function that is called first. It's like the first function that is called, and then after that is the update, called once per frame. Now whenever the thing goes to another frame, an update is called. Now another function that is really common and you need to know according to me is void fixed update, which is like this. And then you need to go right in here. So if you really want to write a detail about void fixed update, then you can write called after a specific time. Although we're not going to use the void fixed update, but yeah, in some cases you really need void fixed update. Then we're going to just delete these two lines that we have using system collections and using system collections generic. We need using Unity engine. Firstly, let's just start up by creating a public float, and let's just name this like player speed, because I want this to be a player speed. And I don't want to define a value to this because I want to define the value right in that data. Now I'm going to create another float that is public float and site speed, and this actually is going to be the player at which is you're going to move at the sideways. Now, firstly, I need to assign another variable that is public rigid body and my RB. Now practically I've not explained what a rigid body is, so that's not your fault. So firstly, let's go to Unity. As you can see that we don't have any rigid body component. So let's understand first what is a rigid body. A rigid body is something that makes something rigid and collidable. So practically in that way, if you see something like this, rigid body is going to make it fall down and make it more collidable. So just see the difference. By adding a rigid body component, if you press play, it's not going to do any specific great function or it's going to change the whole thing. It's just going to make it fall. It wants to prove that this has a gravity. It just makes things more look normal. Now, if you have a table and you use rigid body, it's completely good because rigid body is the thing that's going to make it look better. I mean, if you use rigid body right in here, then in that case, rigid body is going to make it look like if you hit the table, then it's going to fall down. And that's what the normal behavior by an object or rigid object is what rigid body does. So I've defined this as my RB, and right in here, if you see non-rigid body, now I can drag my sphere right in here. So sphere rigid body. Now whenever I'm going to address my RB here, then which stands for my rigid body, I'm going to call the sphere, which is my player. And I'm going to go to void update. Practically, if you want to make the program a little bit more clean, then you can delete this. And if you want it really a little bit more clean, then you can delete this. Now what's left is this one and these two brackets. So firstly, what I'm going to do is right in here, I'm going to write RB dot, my RB dot, add force, and I'm going to create a vector 3 by putting these two parentheses, and then I'm going to write in a stake. Now I don't know in which way we need to go presently. Oh, so it's a problem, which is practically we need to go to the minus side. So if you really wanted to go normal, then you'll have to flip everything. So because although you could go by minus side, but that's going to affect a lot of things. So in that case, I don't want it to go like that. So that is why let's just make things a little bit more normal and skip it to this side, so that this z-axis is now pointing in front. Now I really want to do that because that's going to affect a lot of other things, and in that case the program will become more complicated. There is a way of doing obviously things to be normal, but you know, I hope you know. Now the coordinates in a vector 3 value is x, y, and z. Now we practically want to move in z1. So I'm going to go 0, comma, 0, comma, and right in here I'm going to write player speed. Now into time the delta time. Right in here is into time the delta time makes it call at every frame, and it's really better to use into time dot delta time delta. Now I forgot to write time, so I'm going to write time right in here. So it makes it call on each frame. Now if you just go the time dot delta time is, it tells the actually you can also click that the time it took to complete the frames in the last frame in seconds, and according to that it affects the next frame. So player the speed into time dot delta time, that makes more movement more smooth for easier words. So right in here I am going to go to save my script, and I'm going to go to this point. Now it's going to update this for a little bit more moment, which is practically normal. And if in case, if it practically till now we have written something that is pretty easy, so there's nothing that you shouldn't understand or something like that. But right in here, let's just create a player speed of 60. So right in here, when we just press this go, you can see that it starts rotating, and it starts rotating at RB.add force. Obviously you can increase the amount of force you want to add, and that completely depends upon you. The more high the amount of force, the higher or the more will be its speed. So right now here we have done our player movement, so I'm gonna go, but we really need an input that tells it that where is actually that if you press this key, it's gonna move in that way. So we're gonna write if input dot get key. Get keys there. Input dot get key. Right here, I'm gonna create under the parentheses, and I'm gonna write right. Now, what right stands for is right arrow, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add these two right in here. Now, the point is that let me just check something that yeah, is gonna move in the right way, and then we need to put it on the x-axis. We need to put the value on the x-axis, then transform. Now, I'm not gonna call it with RB. I need to do transform dot translate. Transform stands for this whole transform. So we're going to do the translate motion, because translate motion is a little bit more smoother for side movements. Transform the translate new vector 3. Obviously you understand what new vector 3 stands for. That is a new vector 3. And then after that we're going to put parentheses and then make a value in it. So practically it's XYZ. So I'm going to put the side speed in X, comma, but yes, again, call time dot delta time, comma, 0, comma, 0. Right in here, then put a semicolon, and it's going to do the work. So save assets, apply the movement, and right in here, then I'm going to go. Now for this time, what I want to do is in our player movement script, which is this one, I don't want the value to be 60, because if it's 60, then practically seeing the movement will be a lot hard difficult. So let's make it 0, and let's make it 15 for in this case. And now I'm going to press my right arrow for in this case, and it's going to move its side. Oh, it just came this side, but you can see that it's moving on the x-axis. Now the point is that it's getting rotated on the z-axis, which I don't want, because that's moving this x-axis, and that will cause a lot of problems. So for doing that, go to constraint and freeze rotation on the z-axis. Now that'll make things a little bit more simpler and better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press, and you can see it's moving and colliding, and then again. So that's the transform movement, and we're going to do the same thing for the other side. In fact, we're going to copy this, and then I'm just press. So you can write the same code on the side. That is, if input dot get key, and I'm going to name it again left. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this here, and I'm going to write transform. Again, I told you what transform stands for, and I showed you also dot here. I want to go to translate. Translate is equals to new vector 3. Actually, I'll say that it is equal to minus side speed. Oh, sorry, my caps lock. So minus side speed into time dot delta time, comma 0, comma 0. And now let's just add in the semicolon, and you're going to see that you have created your full player movement. Obviously this is an easy way to the player movement, and you obviously have more complicated player movements, but that is what we're going to do. So practically let's just run this. So I take a little bit of time to run because it's still not updated. So if you can press this, it just caused a problem. See, now you press it, and again it's gonna take a little bit of time to open, which is quite normal. And now if you can go this side and the other side too. Yay! And I can see that you have a quite smooth movement, although I don't think that this value is right, so I'm gonna make it 5 because 15 is just too much. So I'm gonna make it right in there. I want this to be, yeah. So now you see that the value is pretty normal, which makes this area also to be smooth. Now obviously you can keep a value like 100 to this play speed, which is quite good, and then you're gonna see a smooth movement that is between those two coordinations. So it's gonna take a little bit of time, and it's gonna move, and you can see so it's gonna move right in there. So, and if you can just follow along, so in the next video we are gonna find out about how to do the camera movement script. But presently, if you just freeze the rotation in all the sides and then just prevented the camera, so and then make the position to be 0, then 0, and again 0, then make it a little bit up, a little bit back, and for now it's gonna work fine. Although later obviously we are gonna edit it, but for now it's gonna work fine because we are not doing the camera movement script in this video. So for now it's gonna work fine. It should work fine actually. And you can see that you are moving in front, although it's really not understandable because I think that I just play speed 100 and right in there. So yeah, in the next video we are gonna learn about how to in the next video we're gonna learn how to do the camera movement. And thank you everybody for watching this video. So thank you.